Hi, everyone. This is Christine Thompson with Baird and Warner back again for another show on my series to just help provide information to you out there if you're thinking of making the move. And one of the things involved with preparing and selling your house is how do you want your house to show? So today I'm going to have you listen to TL with Homes with TL. She does all the staging for my clients, super reliable. And so, TL, I'm just going to start first with what's the first step when you meet with a seller to talk about staging? What's the first thing you need to do with them to just start the process?
Interesting. I just went to one of your clients this afternoon, and the first thing that I wanted to talk to your client about is what will be remaining in the home. What's the situation? Are you moving? Will you be taking furniture with you? Will you be living in the home during the selling process? Finding out just some fact finding so that I can see how I can best serve the client.
Cool. So you go to the house, what do you do when you go through the house, and what do I always say, I'm going to bring you there, you're going to give them a proposal, but just the general breakdown, just so they can understand what would we be getting when we have a stager come and just do a proposal.
You would get a meeting, then you would walk through the home with me and go through the room so that I can understand what you are able to do and what you're not able to do. You get a sense for whether or not you can move things. You're going to get my suggestions, but I also don't want to burden your clients with remembering, so I keep on telling them you're going to get a full written report. Within 24 hours after I leave the home, I go through the whole home, I take all the photos, and then I just do a comprehensive report that asks the sellers to do things in each room, telling them what would best serve them for the selling of their home. And then in each room, I propose what would even enhance their home even more if it needs add-on services.
Cool. If someone was going to try and stage the home by themselves, which I always prefer, I'd rather have you go in there. What are some basic things they should be thinking about to get their home more inviting and sellable? That's, if they're not going to go out and buy furniture and artwork or anything like that, what's some general things you would tell them?
That's an excellent question. The first thing that I would suggest to people if they're doing it on their own is scale is everything. If you have 5 pictures on the wall, you're better taking off 5 and putting one large thing up. It'll photograph well because that's where the emphasis needs to be. Removing all the personal items off dressers, countertops, all the clutter, all the things, all the unopened mail, all the stickies on the side of the refrigerator, all those types of things have to be removed. Every room has to have a purpose. For example, today is a good example is I was in one of your homes and she had a storage container in her bathroom. And what I explained to her is that you're sending the message to the buyer that you don't have enough storage. And so we don't want a buyer to think that. It's all about buyer perception. And so removing those extra pieces, making sure that everything is clear around doorways when people enter into rooms and go into rooms. You don't want to be walking into dressers. You don't want anybody to be cramped because buyers shop in groups and there's going to be groups of people walking through the home. Lots of natural light. Get rid of those dark shades. Take the paper blinds down. Have all your clean light fixtures on. Be spotless and have everything organized. Everything has to have a home. And you can, if a seller does that and I never return back, they're still in a way better position for selling their home than they were before I came.
Awesome. So, sometimes owners just have a lot of stuff in their home. They've been in there for decades, and it's overwhelming when they get the list of like, oh my gosh, where do we start? Is it possible for stagers or other services that they can get help? So that way, if they're on a deadline, hey, we want to get our house on the market in 2 weeks, but we just can't get all that done that's on the list. What do you propose? What are options?
Definitely organizers are a really good idea. Get the kids to come over and get the stuff that they've been saying that they're going to come and get for the last 10 years that you've been saving for them. And go room by room. I mean, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? And you just have to take the list. And I think the list really does give them a good guide and do one room at a time. So let's say I check in on people. I will, if someone has a lot of stuff, go visit them halfway through. So if they say, I'm going to be done, I want my photos at the end of the month, and by the middle of the month, they've got 10 rooms to do and they've done one, that's not a realistic timeline. So we have to sit down and regroup and, try and get them some help or at least change the timeline. But it's an emotional thing too. The longer someone's been there, the harder it is for them to purge. But it's basically 3 piles: give away, throw away, and take with me. And is it worthy of paying the high fees of moving something? It's all get dealt with when you move. I say that to people all the time. What would you do if in 2 weeks the moving truck showed up? Right? You're moving.
Yeah.
Staging is that first step of it really becoming real, right?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
And so it's benefiting you to do all this stuff beforehand because you have to do it anyways because you're moving.
Definitely, especially when I have you bring you into the picture, right? They pack up earlier and less to do later.
Everybody says that. They always say, oh, it was so much easier, TL. We didn't have that much to do because you made us do it all beforehand.
Yeah, it kind of becomes a brainless process. Just check up your list and then their house is ready and they don't have to get overwhelmed with what's the right thing to do. They just punch it out. People are, they have their personal things in their home. They like their pictures, their artwork, things like that. And you may come through and go, that's just not going to work in here. How should they be thinking of staging in general? We'll get away from the process and what you do for them and stuff, but how should they be thinking of staging? Because, there's decorating and there's staging. What would you say what's the difference and what's the purpose of the staging?
Depersonalizing it. When I describe staging, I would say a dialed down version of a model home. When you go in a model home, it's completely done, but you really can't figure out who lives there.
Right.
And you really don't see any evidence of them either. The refrigerator's empty, the closets are empty, but yet every room is tastefully done to a theme. And so it's very interesting because more buyers sorry about that.
That's okay. We're all in our home working.
That cat hair before you go on the market.
Staging, staging.
Gosh, okay,
the staging prop is back.
Get rid of them now.
It's okay.
All right, so if you go to the extreme and you take everything out, then it's got no style, it's got no pizzazz. So that's one of the issues that people have, is that you can't depersonalize it, and that's why you can't stage your own home, because clearing off the counters is almost as bad as having cluttered counters. There's a happy medium. And really, what are you looking for? It's an emotional, staging is emotional, and you're buying in, you're merchandising a product that is going to appeal to the most amount of people without having extremes in taste, and showing off the features of the home. Showing off the features of the home is different than showing off someone's decorating personality. So if something is distracting from a feature of the home that is going to be a positive, I want to bring focus to it. If there's going to be a buyer objection, then I want to take away from it. And that's really the art of staging.
So it's not really about
in a photograph.
So it's not about, well, I like this painting and I want to have that out. It's about, would you agree, it's about creating a flow through the home. Like you mentioned, don't have furniture, in the way of a door, but maybe even just carrying color spots through the house that they naturally flow from room to room.
Absolutely, absolutely. And everything is about scale as well. Having the proper size pieces. If you have too big of a bed in a room, then the buyer can't open up the closet door. That's not going to work. So, a room, a 10 by 12 room can't handle that king size bed that you've had forever. It's just not going to work. So it all has to be about scale, and every room has to have a purpose. When you have a room that is serving as a sewing room as well as a bedroom, you're telling the buyer, I didn't have any room to put my craft room up, so I have to multi-purpose this room. And that's going to give the wrong message to the buyer. That's another really important factor.
Very true. Very true. So towards the end there, you go in and stage it. What's a typical time frame for, a typical sized, 2,500 to 3,000 square foot home, in the market at least that I work in? that you could get in there once the seller finishes everything that you asked them to do?
2 days. But delivery day is not disruptive. I have a delivery and a setup day that I bring all the materials in. I set up a little mini warehouse in one of the rooms that they've already cleaned that we've predetermined is going to be a free room for me. And I have everything all set up. And then the next day I come in, it's preferred that no one's home in the home. Also, mostly because of the fact that we have to concentrate when we're trying to do our work, and it is an art form, so we need to have it non-disruptive. But usually that would take one whole day, and ideally the photos would take place right after that.
Yep.
One of your clients last week wouldn't even sleep in her bed. I promised to go over and I told her I'd go over and make it her bed.
Oh, no.
Said that I make making beds an art form, and she said I'm sleeping on the couch and my husband got it done. And I'm like, well, good thing Christine's house is sell right away.
Yeah, we did sell it in one day.
It's gonna last.
We sold it in one day. We did. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah. So and I'm talking to the owner, and they're like, "Can we go back to the house now?" I'm like, "Yes, you can live in your house."
I'm really happy about that. That's great.
Yeah, it went fast. And that was a house that, you know, they had lovely things in the home. And when I first walked in, it was in pretty good shape. But after I got you in there, the homeowner, because the homeowner was, I don't know if we need staging. And I convinced them to go with it. And then when you finished, the wife was like, "Oh my God, I love my house now." You know, I mean, she had lovely things, but you just knew how to really pull it all together and bring focus to the spaces. It was fantastic. So
you didn't really know what you liked. You just knew you liked it, right? When you went in. And isn't that really sort of, it's just almost a feeling that a buyer gets. Yeah. And it just somehow works. And I believe so much of it has to do with consistency and scale. And that, you know, that's just another really interesting point is my efforts are always on using the seller's pieces, as many of their pieces that I possibly can, that it won't harm them to use them. It's a better case scenario financially, as well as the less disruption in their life. It's nice for them to have their own belongings near them when they're selling.
Sure. Yeah.
So people's stuff in their home. Yeah. And that's a perfect example of mostly was just restyling, but it makes a huge difference. And it's
really good.
Yeah, it's one of the best things I think a seller can do when they're prepping their home. If they had a list of, I'm going to paint these 2 bedrooms, or I'm going to stage, you know, 4 rooms, the staging, quite honestly, I can stage around a bright paint color and make it work, and it's going to be more beneficial to stage.
Yeah, I mean, I had the one listing where it had the wallpaper in the dining room, but then the way you put stuff in there, I'm like, it made the wallpaper work.
Yeah.
It actually made it work. I'm like, oh my gosh, this wallpaper works now in here. Yes. Well, TL, I really appreciate your time. Your information is here right on the screen, so people know how to call you if they want to pick your brain more or bring you over, and maybe they're not even moving out and they just want to have you make their home look prettier. They can give you a call. Okay. So everyone, this is Terry Lynn Tomazic. I call her TL. She goes by TL, and she's with Homes with TL. You can call her, text her, or email her anytime that you want. And if you have any questions that you need to direct to me, you've got my contact information. You can call anytime too. So really appreciate you watching this series. Be sure to like and share it with anyone you know so that they can find out about this. And we're going to have a lot more shows coming up with a lot of different types of services that I use to assist my clients so they have a very successful process, experience, and results with selling their home or buying, whichever way it may go, or both. So thank you again for watching this. I'm Christine Thompson, lead agent with the CT team at Beard & Warner, and stay tuned for more shows. You all have a great day and stay safe out there.
Thanks, Christine.
You're welcome, TL. Take care, all.